Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, October 6th. It's 6:30 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Olentangy Board of Education. It's a regular meeting. Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll.
Dr. Dabrico?
Present.
Mr. Lester?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Dr. Wallach?
Here.
Dr. Wise?
Here.
All right, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written. We have no amendments.
Correct. So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, any discussion on the agenda? Nope. Seeing none, Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Dr. Wallach?
Yes.
Dr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico?
Yes.
All right, so for the board president's report, just a couple quick items. So one, I want to welcome Ryan Jenkins. This is his first meeting officially as treasurer, so thank you. Looking forward to working with you. I just want to spend a minute on, we're going to have a discussion item tonight on the enrollment report and the work of the facilities committee. Mark and I kind of not coordinated, but we both went back and did some historical work on enrollment on the same day. And it's really impressive, you know, the value of the work of the enrollment report into how we do meaningful, thoughtful planning in the district, right? So if you go back, I could go back 20 years. I go back to 2002 and look at where we were. We had, make sure I get my numbers right, 7,500 students. And the mix of those students were 55% in elementary, only 22% in middle school, and 23% in high school, okay? And then like the growth started happening, right? So we had years of 10, 11, 12, 13% growth in a single year, adding significant pressure. And then as those kids kind of go through the system, it starts to flatten out, right? So we had 55% of K through 5 in 2002. In 2022, that's down to 45%, right? Because that segment or duration of the population has now gone through elementary, gone through middle and high. And we're starting to stabilize. So when we look at, and I don't want to steal the thunder of the enrollment report, when we look at growth rates going forward in the 2 to 3% range, it's just on a much larger number. And it doesn't mean that the growth doesn't have the similar pressure. Although I do think in the past, when we were growing at 1,000 students a year versus 70 students a year, it was different pressure. But when you're at our size and our scale, 2% growth per year compounded, you know, starts to really put pressure on the system. So looking forward to the discussion and appreciate the work of the facilities committee driving that work, because I don't think a lot of school districts have committees that then look out till 2032, 2033, in terms of trying to anticipate what that population is going to look like and how we respond to that. And so I think it really helps us do meaningful, long-term strategic planning. So appreciate the work of the facilities committee and look forward to the discussion. So then, any other board members, any other updates from committees?
So we had our second meeting of the Ad Hoc Student Mental Health and Wellbeing Committee last night. As we've talked about in prior meetings, this committee is made up of students, of parents, of staff, board members, and really trying to get a sense of all perspectives of this really difficult issue. I know it's an issue we've talked about in multiple board meetings. It's an issue that the board is very concerned about and something that we're taking very seriously. At our meeting last night, we really started to narrow down the topics that we're going to be focusing on moving forward, and had, I think a lot of times with these issues, there's just not an opportunity to hear each other and to hear, what are the barriers that people are facing? What are the ways that that we're running into some hangups in the system that prevent us from getting to where we want to be? So we really had time for that to happen last night, especially hearing from the students, which I think is the most important part of all of this. We've now sort of refined it into 3 or 4 target areas that we're going to be moving forward on, and really looking forward to making some rolling recommendations as the year goes on. So that work is continuing apace, and
Good.
we look forward to good progress.
Okay, great. With that, we'll go to our first presentation item. This is the ozone robotics. Drew Bachman is the advisor. The agenda is yours. The podium is yours.
Are we allowed to take pictures?
If you want, sure.
What's that? Oh,
We're
sweet.
going to bring our bot in. So, hello, my name's Drew Bachman. I'm a math teacher at Orange High School, and I am the faculty advisor for the ozone robotics team. And I brought these 3 awesome men with me today, young men, to present what our program does.
I'm Thomas Peterson, and I'm a junior at Berlin High School.
I'm Rishi Nalkirti, and I'm also a junior, but at Olentangy High School.
I'm Caleb Duarte, a senior at Orange High School who desperately needs a haircut, and this is Noodles.
So I'm not going to talk too much. I want to let these guys tell you. But one of the really neat things about our club, if you didn't hear it, we have 3 different high schools. We've got Berlin, Olentangy, and Orange represented. We have students from Liberty as well. And as far as I know, we might be the only competitive team that competes as one Olentangy. All 4 schools come together. Oftentimes it's halfway into the season. I don't even know what school these guys go to because they blend so well together. And so that's one of the things that's really neat about this club. The other thing, and I'm gonna let these guys talk, the other thing that's amazing about this, I feel like we do a great job, and school districts in general do a great job of celebrating students and like our sports teams. When we're all standing up and cheering when they score goals or score a touchdown, our performing arts, when they finish a piece, we're all standing and clapping. So this program gives these students that moment. These guys are coders and designers, and they bring their STEM skills to the table for this robotics team. And when we go to competition, it's amazing. When our bot shoots these balls into a hoop, and it happens, we're clapping, we're standing, we're cheering, and at the end, when we win a competition, we're hugging each other and jumping up and down. And that's amazing that we do that for code and for CAD, 3D design, and engineering skills and all that. So that's just one of the things that I think makes this program amazing, and I'm really glad that we support it and that these guys get that opportunity. I'm going to turn it over to Thomas to tell us more about the program.
So each year we start meeting in the fall to train new members and prepare for the coming season, which begins in January. After the season starts, we have 3 months to create a robot that will compete against other robots at the competition, and the challenge for the competition changes every year. So there's a ton that goes into creating a competition-ready robot like this one that you see right here. So our robots are designed, built, coded, and driven by students from across the district. While building awesome robots is cool, our team is so much more than that. We have business people, artists, and web designers who communicate with businesses, create branding, and manage our team's website. And in addition to everything that goes into getting us from kickoff to competition, we focus on teaching our students valuable skills that can be used in the real world. Our team members have the opportunity to develop their skills in professional CAD software, branding, business communications, and programming languages that are heavily used in the professional world. Like many activities, robotics has a season, competition, and practices. But unlike many activities, most of our students continue engineering, programming, and designing after high school. Some of our alumni are working at SpaceX, Microsoft, and more.
Like Thomas says, we have a season each and every year. With the new season comes a new challenge. And last year's challenge was involved picking up blue balls from the ground. Our intake system, right as demonstrated, can pick up balls from the ground and shoot them into a central hub. Okay, and it shoots balls into a central hub. Each ball nets us at 2 points. At the end of every match, you can climb monkey bars to earn extra points. Those climbing is created by our arms over there, which can move and climb monkey bars. And to advance in a competition, you have to be part of a strong alliance, which is a group of 3 robotics teams. And once you are part of a strong alliance, you can advance in competition, and we were able to do so, and we went on an undefeated streak in order to win regionals, and we got the opportunity to go to World Championships, which is in Houston, Texas. After regionals, we had a total of 2 to 3 weeks before Worlds. We will learn from our mistakes at regionals, and we had a chance to upgrade our robot. Two of the main issues were our AI tracking system, which we use to score the balls, and our climbing. During one of the matches, we actually fell, and you can see us falling during the competition in one of these clips right over here. Yeah. Luckily, through hard work, we were able to fix this issue, and we were able to get our targeting system upgraded. We had a new challenge, though, a financial challenge. Even though we went through all of this effort, we still didn't have the money in order to go to Worlds. So in less than 2 weeks, we pushed for sponsorships, set up a GoFundMe, and put up promotional materials throughout the schools and raised up to $12,000. Once we reached Worlds, we talked to teams from across the world, talking to teams from Israel, borrowed parts from Australia, met teams from Turkey, Japan, China, and so much more. There was teams that were even operated out of NASA facilities. And the biggest thing we saw at the World Championships was how these teams were expanding their influence in the community. And here's Caleb to talk more about expanding our presence.
At the first championship, I had the privilege of speaking to dozens of bright and passionate teams from across the globe. I spoke to a team from Mexico as they told me about how their school integrated their team into their STEM curriculum and how they could even get this letter in robotics as if it were a varsity sport. I spoke to an all-girls team from Pittsburgh who brought in young women from Eastern Asia to their facilities to show them about the wonders of STEM education that they otherwise would not have gotten in their home countries. I also spoke to a team from Spain who, 1, were really fun to gossip with in Spanish, and 2, gave me some of the most in-depth and insightful solutions to our waste and transportation crisis. I should also mention that they were in the 6th grade.
Oh.
You see, STEM education doesn't have to begin at the high school level. We have smaller robotics teams at the elementary school level, teaching them essential teamwork and modern problem-solving skills in the context of the world's greatest challenges. Middle school teams that teach these kids friendly and graciously professional competition. And of course, Ozone, where students come to, often for the first time, get met with a challenge that tests their character. And you know what? I honestly can't think of a more perfect example of a program that speaks to the exceptionalism of Olentangy. I see it every day in our offices and in our schools. Everyone here has these things in common, and that's a drive, a passion, and most of all, a craving for a challenge. First, much like Olentangy, gives the opportunity to grow the whole student and not just praise their intellectual ability, while simultaneously giving back to the community that has given them so much. With all that being said, I can say that as we enter a decade as a program here in this district, we are so much more than a robotics team. We're a team that does robots, yes, but we're building the future engineers, artists, and business people of the 21st century. And that wouldn't have happened without your support, so thank you. And to the Board of Education for graciously extending this invitation to speak today, and for your unwavering support in building our future. Thank you.
Standing ovation, man. I mean, yay.
So it's coming your way.
Do you have any questions for these guys?
Just thank you. Just thank you. Thank you for great teachers let kids, and you just take the barriers away and let them go to work, so thank you. It's awesome.
that comes easily. I don't actually know that much about robotics. What the other awesome part we didn't mention is that we have an amazing network of mentors that come from Worthington Industries, Honda, like local partners that they bring the knowledge. I just kind of get things organized.
So I saw that. I saw the Jegs hats. I saw some stickers on. So it's a nice public-private partnership, right? You get some good sponsorship, which I think is fantastic. It's great.
And we have a list of all our sponsors on the
Okay.
front.
Oh,
Good.
very nice.
So how long did it take to build that robot?
So we get 3 months.
3 months.
All we get.
Wow.
Lots
Our,
of time.
the challenge is announced in the first Saturday of the new year, if it isn't on New Year's Eve. And then we get 6-ish weeks before the first regional competition is held. But usually we participate in week 3 competitions and so on. And yeah.
Then we work a lot on the weekends. We put in probably
Yeah,
15 hours a weekend and a few weeknights in there as well.
And I
We
was
work
gonna
hard
say,
on it.
they also work at home.
Yeah.
So that some of it is in school, some of it, but a lot of it, they're on teams, they're working at home. I know that I've lost count of how many hours these particular 3 have done on their own, and still doing all of their schoolwork and their tests and everything, and it's a lot. And the other issue I think we have, which is really a cool issue, is we are running out of mentors for these kids because they're so awesome that they have surpassed a lot of the mentors. It's amazing. So we've actually reached out to other, through our network of engineering and coding, say, hey, do you guys know anyone that can help with, some AI and some vision, because they're beyond what we know. But they're just amazing group of kids. And I also wanted to mention, the other thing they do is they do mentor. So I also work with the elementary teams. We have a few at my school. We're starting to branch out. So a lot of the high schoolers will come down and help with the elementary students. They'll also help with the middle school team that we started last year. And it's just really great to see them grow. And even our middle schoolers will come down and help the little kids as well. So it's a really awesome just continuum, and they're just really amazing kids. They really are.
So 2 juniors and a senior?
Yeah.
What's next? What are you guys thinking about doing next?
So
Like where you want to go to school?
I plan to major in physics and go into quantum computing. So a lot of the skills that I learned from robotics, mainly Python, is very transferable to my industry.
I plan on studying computer science in college, which the languages and stuff that we use here in robotics is stuff that people are learning in college, so we definitely got a huge head start.
I plan on studying architecture, which is a beautiful blend of art and engineering, of course, and we obviously have both on our team.
Did you all take on different roles as you're building it? I mean, it seems like you're bringing different, backgrounds in how you're doing it.
So there are a few different teams. We have build and fabrication, who build the robot with power tools, shop equipment, all kinds of stuff. We have design, who Caleb right there, design lead, design the robot in professional CAD software that's like they design all of this stuff, all the measurements, all of that. We have code team, which is what Rishi and I do. We're the leads on that. And business, all kinds of stuff. There's probably more too.
And Thomas in code, he specializes more in the Java side of things, so he makes the robot practically drive around. He does a lot of stuff with that. I do, I mainly do the AI tracking system and making sure that we can shoot balls into the target.
So once you get that idea that you get, at the beginning of the year, do you all come together and then kind of discuss your different teams on, and how much time do you spend on that before you actually begin building?
We like to say that everyone's a designer in the beginning of the day, whether you specialize in business or you code. Everyone has a say in what happens to the robot. And we follow the very long engineering design process, and the most important step in that is iteration. So even though our ideas may seem good and flawless in the beginning, through a very lengthy iteration process, we're able to come to a near perfect product. So near perfect with quotation marks. So.
We like to mimic a lot of what businesses do, and our collaboration across teams mimics collaboration across departments in a traditional business sense.
I love the realization that you're getting, right, of how you're learning and how it's impacting what you can do and how you then apply those skills in the future, so that's great. I want to touch on just what you talked about briefly about inspiring the next generation of kids, because you guys are really passionate about this, and it shines through. I mean, like, I was an English major. I have nothing with this, but it inspired me. I'm like, wow, maybe I could build it. But I'm sure, like, the younger kids, right, are just hearing you all talk, hearing the way that you present it, continue to do that and inspire them. I think that's great, and we're lucky to have such great ambassadors for this program.
Yeah, we like to pride ourselves on taking anyone in. We'll take anyone who doesn't have experience, and we'll teach them. We'll make sure that they can actually contribute to the robot. I know Thomas just started, didn't even know the language that he works in primarily now. I didn't know the language either until we started working in it.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm just thrilled that we have students coming back to meetings and presenting to us. This is the best. I used to teach very, very, very basic coding, like to elementary school students, so my tiny brain is blown at what you are all capable of. I have a very simple question. Did you name your robot?
Oh, yes. Its name is Noodles, because
There we go.
noodles that look like,
It's one of the hardest steps of this.
Yeah.
A lot of thought goes into it.
20 fights that go into naming that.
Well, thank you for sharing noodles with us.
You know,
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
the thing that's amazing is, the good thing about being older is that you can see the long view of what you are all doing. And it has nothing to do with the robot. It has everything to do with your following a passion, communicating to us, communicating to everyone watching, working in a team. So many people are good at things in the world, but they struggle on a team, and you guys have put it, your whole team. I mean, those are the skills that are really going to drive your success in the future. So just so impressed, I can't stop smiling, so thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, Mr. Rafe, you get a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
Don't let us down.
That is a tough act to follow, and again, like I say all the time, when I see that kind of stuff, I feel like the proudest parent out there, is seeing what our kids are so capable of doing, and then obviously their communication and collaboration skills is just phenomenal. So thank you to Mr. Bachman and Mrs. Worth. She's a principal at Allen Creek Elementary School and devotes a lot of her time to that program, so we're very appreciative of all that they've done. So, see, I guess I'm pressing a button, Dustin. Is it on? I don't know. It's usually on for me. I got people for that. Sons of guns.
Feels like your first school board meeting.
What's that?
Feels like your first school board meeting.
Yeah. Well, top that. Walked right into that one, didn't I? All right, so there are other great things going on in the district. So I'd like to start by congratulating 30 high school seniors who have received the distinguished honor of National Merit semifinalists. As you know, those students represent the top 0.5% of all of the test takers on the PSAT exam. So congratulations to those students and their families. We've got a great program going on over at the STEM Academy, our biomedical engineering program, and the students this past week received their mannequins, and as you see on the slide, mannequin, M-A-N-I-K-I-N, is different than a mannequin, which is a human-shaped plastic doll located in a store. A mannequin, for medical or surgical purposes, is the correct spelling there, so I don't want somebody to call me out for spelling that incorrectly. But the students in the biomedical engineering program had kind of their white coat ceremony, like typical medical school white coat ceremony, but they centered it around receiving their mannequins. So they will gradually build human models from clay So they start with the skeleton and add other organs and tissues and all the different systems over a 2-year period. So they did receive a grant from the National Education Association and the Olentangy Education Association, or Education Foundation, so we're very proud of that and happy with that support. I want to take a moment, the Olentangy broadcast journalism programs were recently highlighted. This week, News ran a story on them. As you all know, this was part of our 2020 ballot issue to expand the program to add broadcast studios at all 4 of our high schools. Orange, we'd already put in space at Orange. Mr. Gordon has done a great job supporting the programs as they've continued to grow. This is another one of those experiences our kids get to have that is very rare, because not every school district around has that type of program. And if you haven't had an opportunity to watch a live broadcast of any of our sports programs, they really are very impressive. So it gives an opportunity for people that, you know, aren't here, grandparents out of town, those kind of things, to watch and see the games live.
Well, it's, not to interrupt, but it's been a little bit of an offshoot of COVID that, you know, pre-COVID, we didn't live stream anything.
Right.
Now almost every athletic event's live
Yeah.
streamed.
Yeah, and we
This
were
gives- this
starting.
gives a chance to do
Yeah.
play-by-play
Right.
and broadcasting.
And, you know, they've all really run with it. Orange kind of was the leader on it all, but they've got end zone cameras and,
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it looks like a ESPN event.
Yeah.
They do a great job. So on the field reporting, and so, this is another great example of kind of like returning back to more normal activities. We're starting back with field trips this year, so our AP Environmental students took advantage of having a great natural resource in our backyard, and they went down to learn about the history of the dam, study biodiversity, learn about the Army Corps of Engineers, and interestingly enough, during their visit, they saw a bald eagle, which is,
Wow.
haven't seen a bald eagle around Alum Creek in a while, so that's pretty cool. This is Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, so there's a lot of activities going on all throughout the district. Ms. Williams, a Spanish teacher at Olentangy High School, had a parent teaching a lesson, cultural lessons on El Salvador. So just want to highlight that continued work. Got a big event coming up on October 19th at Berlin High School. We've really tried to push this issue to our parents. We're holding a Parent Academy event with Bridge Ed, and as you know there'll be panelists from Ohio State Medical Center, Worthington Industries, J.P. Morgan Chase, Honda, and Elford Construction, and I'll highlight the pathways to job and potential opportunities for our students. We're really proud of this program. You know, we already had one board presentation on it. We got to keep pushing this because I really do think this is will have a high impact on our ability to have our kids prepared for the workforce of the future. And now, just press that button. I learned that already.
Okay, so I think about a month ago, we shared the name of the new middle school's mascot, the Bruins, and tonight we're here to share the imagery that will go with the Berlin Middle School Bruins. Here we go, I think. Yep, so there we go. That is the primary logo and with the lockup with the name, and the secondary, and the name of the school and the name of the mascot, and then the paw print is their secondary logo as well. And I believe you have, yep. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we like it.
And Mr. Davis is really gonna make this.
Just one, so obviously Berlin's double blue, this is double
Thank
blue.
you.
Is Cheshire double blue?
Love it.
They are not. They are blue with kind of a lighter brown and they're the Cubs.
Thank you.
Which, and here I have the slide with all of the middle
there you go.
school mascots together. Yeah, so exciting. So it's fun to
Great.
put a image with the school and starting to take shape.
There you go. All right, thank you, Mrs. Davis. It is really, I mean, I know that's was a long project getting all this branding up and going, but now it's out and about and I see the new images. It really is, it's very exciting to see that. kids repping and staff and community members all over the place. So, as always, highlighting our action items, we have two retirements of longtime teachers in the district: Natalie Hunter, English teacher at Olentangy High School, and Rick Sedlacek, social studies teacher at Liberty High School. I want to thank them for their years of service, and Mr. Sedlacek's actually an Olentangy grad, and so he and his family have been pillars of the community for a long, long time. So wish them well in their retirement. We got a contract with Robertson Construction for the guaranteed maximum pricing and the construction manager at risk services for elementary 17, which we will be getting here to get started to open in the fall of 24. A lease contract with Gordon Flesch for our copiers for a 5-year term, and then a purchase from Midwest Gym Supply for gymnastics equipment. All 4 high schools have been hosting gymnastics events over the years and been renting equipment, so I'm really proud of the athletic directors. They came together, they pooled their resources, so that purchase isn't coming out of our general fund, but the athletic directors from all 4 high schools are chipping in, and they're going to share that equipment, and we'll store it here in the district, and it'll save us a lot of money in the long run. So, important dates coming up. It's hard to believe already that we are at the end of the first quarter, coming up at the end of next week. Liberty's having their alumni community gathering on October 14th. We have our annual CODA Day, which is a non-school day. And then following, at the end of every quarter, we do a teacher work day for our staff. And then our Bridge Ed program, the State of Central Ohio's Workforce. Again, I strongly encourage parents to attend that. We're hoping for great attendance. And then we'll have first quarter report cards out in our next board meeting, October 27th, which will be at Olentangy High School, because we'll be honoring the National Merit semifinalists.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Rafe? Thank you very much. Mr. Jenkins, the treasurer's report?
If it pleases the board, do you care if I give my report from here?
Wherever you're comfortable.
Please do.
All right. So, 3 days on the job so far. Don't feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose too much, but it'll come. I got to be patient. Wanted to go over just a few items tonight, and I first of all wanted to thank all of our staff, because I understand the transition to new health care can create some angst and some uneasiness, and I just ask that all staff members hang in there, be patient. We have lots of things planned to try to ease that transition. Nothing is more nerve-wracking than to think you might lose your doctor, lose your network, but we certainly are working as hard as we can to make that happen. I'd like to give special thanks to Susan Colson, who's our benefits coordinator in the treasurer's office and the HR department, because I know they're really working hard, and the treasurer's office staff as well is really doing everything they can to make this go as smoothly as we can for our folks. Working on the ACFR compilation, that's not a mistake. I remember that particular acronym got flip-flopped about a year ago. So contacted and spoke briefly to LGS today. Have a meeting tomorrow. Missy's in the audience, and we're meeting with Jennifer, also meeting with Madison and Amanda to make sure that we're clicking off the list of things that we have to have. There's timelines, as you know, with meeting GFOA deadlines, meeting the Hinkle deadlines, and filing by November 30th. So working on that.
If I could jump in.
Yep.
At our last board meeting, we were given a letter with a postage page envelope. Have to fill out the second page. I sent mine in today, so let's make sure we get those in so that Plattenberg can finish their audit.
Yep, and Plattenberg is the only group I haven't had a chance yet this week to contact briefly. Plattenberg will be doing more of the compliance side, as opposed obviously to LGS, which is compiling the financial statements. Also touched base this week and talked with Frontline. If that doesn't sound familiar, Frontline has bought everything in the educational world, including what used to be called Forecast 5, which is our 5-year forecast software. I just would have met today with Todd and Mark, getting all the numbers dialed in for planning for the potential of elementary 18 at some point in the next 4 or 5 years. I got to get used to saying that as I'm here. I thought we were going in Pickerington, and I really learned when I got up here. So planning for that. I already met with Tracy McDowell. Would have met with her a couple of weeks ago. Reviewed some things, some high-level things that I needed to touch base with her about, and know that I need to walk into that meeting on the 24th prepared for finance and audit to get to chew on the 5-year just a little bit, because at this point in time, got my work cut out for me, but we're going to have that first read at October 27th. I figure the best way to learn is to just jump in and do. That is pretty much a review of my first week. Everybody has been fantastic. It has been a wonderful place to work. The only thing about it so far that's a little frustrating is not the morning traffic, but the afternoon. I've just found there's no good way to get from there to here without getting caught up. But if there's any questions or anything else that the board members would like to ask, I'm all ears.
Any questions? Questions?
Just to emphasize, 24th Finance and Audit Committee. We were thrilled last night to have a guest at the Mental Health Committee. Folks don't have to be on the committee to come see what goes on in the committee. So the 24th is Finance and Audit. I'm thinking we're in here, I think.
I'll have to check and get back with you.
I've got plenty of time to find out. Okay, good.
Somewhere in this building. Okay. All right, very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Now move to public participation.
Yes, tonight we have Mr. Drew Gradowski, and he would like to speak to us about Title IV.
This is Title IX, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is an X, not a V. I apologize.
Oh, that's my bad. I
Title
put it
IX,
wrong.
sorry.
Drew Gradowski, 4484 Baker Road. Hello again. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I want to use my time tonight to get to the bottom of this debate on LGBTQ plus literature and end it. These titles aren't meant for everyone. What's appropriate for one may not be appropriate for yours. Talk to your child and direct them accordingly, period. The opposing side has repeatedly said it's not about banning books. Great, but then that leaves us to wonder what the purpose of these performative monologues is. They profess to care about our students' mental health, but this seems disingenuous. At the September 8th meeting, a speaker made their intentions clear by using this space to call upon attendees to comment against the Biden administration's intent to make the protections of LGBTQ plus persons under Title IX a federal mandate. If they were genuinely concerned about the mental health and suicidal inclinations of our students, they would advocate for the protections provided by Title IX, not their removal. Should they get their wish, those children are vulnerable to bullying and discrimination with no recourse. These parents also assume that the work of our equity and inclusion team has a nefarious intent when they only want to foster a nurturing environment to teach and learn. Inclusion costs nothing and benefits everyone by building a stronger community. Acknowledging and celebrating the unique qualities that make us individuals does not create division. It does quite the opposite. It builds empathy, acceptance, and compassion. These are characteristics our young people exhibit already and key values to the world that they're starting to create for themselves. I think it's wonderful and to be admired, not undermined. I think it's time to be honest about what's happening here. These concerned citizens and parents are merely using this podium as a bully pulpit to spout Christian nationalist talking points to intimidate this board and the district into conforming to the religious beliefs and political agendas. It's the overarching theme on their websites, social media, and news sources. They're sowing division in our community, wasting our administration and staff's time. They're spreading homophobia, xenophobia, and intolerance with their parochial views. They are shameful and cruel to perpetuate this, perpetrate this upon our children. Thank you for your time.
That's it? Just the one?
Is it? Yes, so,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Now up, our first discussion item, the first reading of board policy updates. Dr. Jack Fetty, our Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening. The Board's Policy Committee met on September 19th to review the policies that were provided to you. Tonight's the first reading. If there are any questions or comments about the policies presented, we'll bring them back at the next meeting for requested adoption. Two policies of note, 1439 and 4439, are new policies about holidays, following some state laws around the inclusion of Juneteenth as a recognized holiday. And previously, holidays were recognized in contracts in our district, and now they will be recognized in the policy language as well. Are there any other questions? Any questions?
Were they largely updates, just cleaning up language?
Yes, yeah. Anything, they were nothing too major. Honestly, the most significant change this time is the formatting that we provided you the policies in. The committee felt it could be clearer, and they were right, and we came up with a way to do it very
Yeah.
cleanly, I think. So that was the most significant change.
Yeah, and when we get the policies, and as we're looking at it in the policy committee, there's a lot there, and the way that it's formatted, it's a little tough. So this, I think, is much more streamlined. It's very helpful. And, we went through all of these, line by line with all of the edits. And it is a lot of, just minor updates based on, legislative changes and things like that. But it is good to go through, and we did talk through a lot of different aspects of it and how it would, play out for the community and the committee.
Good. All right, any questions for Mr. Fetty?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. The enrollment projection updates, Sharon Jurowitz from the Facilities Committee. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. Lots of new faces, welcome. You'll get to know me over the years. I'm Sharon Jurowitz. I'm the chairperson of the Facilities Committee, and I'd like to present our enrollment projections for this year. And please stop me at any time if you have any questions. I'll try to go pretty quickly. I know some of you have seen it before. It's very similar to what we've seen in the past years. So our enrollment projections are based on the first Wednesday enrollment report of September every year. So this year it's based on the September 7th enrollment report, which you guys have already seen. We like to compare what we projected from last year versus what actually happened this year. Overall, we were off by 1.28% on the overall projections. Mostly the difference was in kindergarten. We actually projected more kindergartners than what we had. We'll discuss that a little bit more in a little bit. That was the grade that was most off. Almost every other grade came in a little bit higher than what we projected. So we think this year we have corrected that moving forward. We also added this slide to this year's presentation, which was comparing what we had projected back in 2017. That was the first year that we started looking at enrollment in this format and using these scenarios and these formulas that we're using. And it was 5 years ago, so we were looking at how well we did, because our goal is to be more accurate each year, and not just for that following year, but in the future years, so we can make sure that we're providing you adequate information for the years that are to come. So I think that we've been getting more accurate. Our projection in 2017 was that we would have 22,700 students. We have 23,260, so we were just off by 2.3%. So we feel that we are getting better and that this new format that we're doing is working.
Yeah, I think it's important to pause on that, because if you would have asked me what the last 5 years would look like 5 years ago, you would have never predicted what we had to go through with COVID and everything else and the economy, and so to still be within 2%, I think is pretty remarkable.
It's kind of been a wild ride over these past couple of years.
And again,
Definitely.
anytime you do a forecast, the further you go out, you've got compounding assumptions and it gets less credible.
Right.
But to be within 2% on 22,000 students,
Yeah,
Right.
500
Pretty good.
kids.
And
It's amazing.
we do look at this projection mostly for the next year. You guys need to plan for what you need next year for classrooms, for teachers.
Mhm.
But we know economically, you need to plan much further out than that. So we feel that trying to be accurate for those outlying years is very important also. So our projection for the next 10 years is looking at, right now we're at 23,260. In 2032, we'll be at 27,927 students overall. That's preschool through seniors. That's a growth of just under 5,000 students over the next 10 years.
I think it's interesting to note out in those 20, 29, 30 years, you see every class at the high school level, middle school level, all over 2,000, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
say
stark.
that again?
20, 29, 30, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th through 12th, everybody's, or what, 30, 31, every class is over 2,000.
Even fourth and
Yeah.
fifth.
Yeah.
Even fourth and fifth.
Yeah.
What's interesting is what's coming in is less than what's going out.
Mhm. Yeah,
And how does that play out? And
Yeah.
again, this is over a 10-year period.
yeah.
So this is like a, I won't say a melting iceberg, but it's, yeah, this is not a rapid change, right? But
It is.
Yeah.
It's definitely, we'll get to some of the charts that show how exponential, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, about how it's growing by a percentage, but it's compounding each year.
Mhm.
Yeah. When I came here in 03, 04, we had 500 seniors. And seniors were only at Olentangy High School, because Liberty opened, they didn't have a senior class.
Yeah.
Mhm. So when we look at elementary school by itself, this is the yellow is the past 10 years, green is where we are currently, blue is the next 10 years. So you can see that we're on a rapid growth for elementary school.
That's all pre-K-12.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And then this is the history of Olentangy throughout time. And we joke about this curve, I hear laughing. Isn't it fun? It's just going up and up and up. At some point, it will come down. You can quote me on that. I don't know when, though.
In whose lifetime?
Yeah.
Not in the next 10 years, no. It is something that we are looking at very seriously in the facilities committee, is when is that peak and when does it come back down? There's no crystal ball, or I wouldn't be here. I mean, maybe the robotics team can come in and figure this out better. They seem to have a grasp on this math. So maybe they can figure out how to predict this better, but it is definitely going up. So again, looking at our overall projections and trying to make sure that our future forecasting is accurate. These are the past reports that we've done, and you can see how we're kind of fluctuating up and down each year. We're kind of trying to correct that. This year's projection is just a little bit higher than what last year's was, and we feel that that makes sense because this year every grade came in a little bit higher than what we thought. We also compare our projections to what the county is doing. The county does an amazing set of reports. If you're into numbers, they have an amazing website with every chart on there, and they do their projections for the whole county, and they break it down very nicely for us into the population of the Olentangy district, and that's population overall, not just students, but adults, everyone that's living within our district boundaries. So in the decade of time between 2020 and 2023, they're saying that that growth should be about 24%. Last year, when they did that report, they said it was going to be 19%. Now they're saying 24%. That's a big jump. We're looking at about 22% in our projections right now, so we feel we're just a little bit under what they're saying. And then for the next decade after that, from 2030 to 2040, they're saying a 12% jump, where previously they had said 16. So that's coming down a little bit. So they're saying a little bit steeper now, tapering off a little bit, still growth. that overall growth in in that 20-year span is that up at the top. I think I can point with this. Nope, it disappears.
Somewhere. It was up there.
It was on the wall and then it wasn't on
There
the
it is.
screen.
We see it.
Oh,
We can see it.
We can see it.
really, I can't see it at all. It's a mystery, so I don't know what I'm pointing at. Okay.
Part of our training.
So in the 20-year span, they're saying growth in Olentangy District is 40%, or last year they were saying 38%. It keeps growing. If you look at it, just 4 years ago, they were saying that growth was only going to be 20%, and now they're saying it's 40%. That's amazing and scary.
Yeah.
So then we look at preschool. Preschool, we do as a basis of a percentage of kindergarten. The past 10-year average is that pre-K is about 30% of kindergarten. That's what we're projecting for the future for it to be. This year was a lot higher. Preschool came in higher than what we had thought. We're kind of balancing that back out, moving forward, and just looking at that average. We think this year just had a spike for some reason.
This has been the hardest one to predict.
Preschool is very hard to predict, yeah. I mean, it's kind of been all over the place, as you can see, and we try to look at averages, and we try to look at percentages. This year, we try to look at, is it a percentage of first grade instead of percentage of kindergarten? We can look at it every way imaginable. We're just going with our gut on this one and saying it's gonna be a percentage of kindergarten, and that's what it's gonna be for the future. And Jack has promised me that he can make it work, whatever the numbers come in at. Yay, Jack. Promise he'll try, amend. Okay, so kindergarten enrollment. Kindergarten enrollment is based on new housing inventory. This is houses that are being built. As you know, we're building a lot of houses in the district, and single-family and multifamily. The top bar there is showing single-family new houses over the past several years. The average is about 788 new homes that are being permitted each year. This past year was 1,029 new homes. For multifamily, the 6-year average was 493. This past year was 309, down a little bit. If you drive around, you wouldn't think that because you see them all over. But this is what the permits are. So this isn't necessarily what's been built and people are moving in, but that's how we track it.
When you say multifamily, are you saying the 300 permits are those, that's the number of units?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So moving forward on our projections, we're looking at having 700 new single-family houses each year. In the past, we looked at, does that taper down? We feel like it's not tapering down yet. It's not what we're seeing. It's not what Delaware County is predicting. So we're keeping that level right now. We are showing that multifamily is tapering down, but each year we keep pushing that out. So we actually haven't had it really start to taper yet. We keep saying we're gonna taper it, but we really haven't yet. But we're thinking that that is slowly coming down, that we're seeing over the past couple years, but it's something that we're definitely trying to keep an eye on.
Yes, we had like in probably 10, 11, 12, a flip where multifamily is going faster than single family, but due more to economic than kind of preference. So I guess I'm not surprised that multifamily is trailing a little bit, but the question is for how long?
Right.
Yeah.
And we do look at it, we're not showing you every single number that we use for these forecasts, but we do look at what the yield is from those. And I think Mr. Rafe always presents that there aren't as many students coming from the multifamily houses as are coming from the single family, and that is exactly what we're seeing. And so we look at that yield number every year of what that is in kindergarten and throughout the board of how many students are we getting from each of those types of units.
You just have to stay mindful with those developers in zoning, because they keep trying to sneak a lot of three-bedroom ones into theirs. When they get 3-bedroom ones, then we start getting kids,
Right.
more and more. The reality is, most of the people in the multifamilies now are kids that aren't school age. So they get them up here, so that they then prepare themselves to target an area to move into.
Mr. Rape, did you say are or are not school age?
Are not school age. Are not.
So they're moving in while a house is being built, or their kids have graduated and they're in that.
Or often it's divorced families that still have a home in the district, and still then both parents have an opportunity to stay in the district, which I think affects the yields too, so. Because the kids get counted as a single family.
So the district kindergarten enrollment throughout the history, you can see that we've had a couple dips throughout time where kindergarten does drop and then picks back up. We've had a few of those over the last 10 years where we've had a little drop and then we continue back up. So this year we feel as another one of those where kindergarten did drop, and then we'll start growing again from that point. Then all of the rest of the grades are based on grade advancement or the growth factor. And we look at how many kindergartners become first graders become second graders, and so on. And in years past, we've looked at whether it's a 2-year average or 3-year average. This year, we decided to use a 5-year average. And we chose that because we felt that the last couple years have been so unusual with COVID and after COVID and online and just all the different options that we thought that this year was pretty high. Last year's was really high, and we thought that using those numbers was going to give a false sense of added growth that we don't think that we're going to have. So we thought that the 5-year average was a good indicator. So this is elementary school, the last 10 years, the next 10 years, and you can see how that is growing. And then we convert that into how many classrooms that we would actually need, and that's based on the number of classrooms that we have, and then the student-teacher ratios that we have for those different grades. So if any of those ratios were to change, then our classroom projections would also change. So our classroom projections that we show for the next 10 years, you can see at the bottom it will say available classrooms is the 503 that we have right now. When it gets into the blue, which is how many classrooms we have, that blue we feel is when we start to need another elementary school. In previous forecasts, we looked at that threshold as being 16 classrooms was our trigger to say, hey, we need another school, and that was just one classroom per elementary school. We thought that that was a little bit low, a little bit tight moving forward, because these classroom projections are assuming that we're equal in grades and we're equal across all schools, that everything is just nicely, evenly divided like math can do for you, which we know is not actually happening. So we thought that we should provide a little bit more cushion. So we're looking at having it be 2 classrooms per school, and so that threshold out also grows as the number of elementary schools grow. So you can see when we're looking at needing elementary school 17, which is in the works, and then we also have 18, 19, and 20 in this 10-year forecast.
So I think to Sharon's point, what we're trying to balance is we have student growth, not necessarily where buildings are, in buildings where there is necessarily student growth, and how much of redistricting and weird maps and feeder patterns do we want to tolerate versus, buildings,
Right.
brick and mortar.
Yeah, if you don't want to have to redivide up students every single year because you need to make them fit into a school. We need to make sure that we have a little bit more flexibility. Now, we don't want to get into the situation where we're building faster than we need to, but we definitely want to make sure that it's on people's radar when we're scheduling and planning for 5 years, 10 years out. What do we need? Do we need land? Do we need a building? Where does it go? Just to really start thinking about that so we're ahead of the game and not behind, which we have been in the past.
Yeah.
So middle school's also growing, as you can see. We do the same thing with, it's based on classroom inventory. We will be opening another middle school. I don't know what the abbreviation will be for that because it's also a BMS, so we put BMS 6. But we'll have the availability to have 16,675 core classroom capacity in these 6 schools, 267 classrooms, which is pretty amazing. But we look at the forecast here, and we are looking at the threshold here of once we are at just 12 classroom, we say we need to be looking at needing another middle school. So we'll be opening number 6 next year, but then we'll have a need for number 7 within this 10-year forecast.
Sorry. So, how did we get 2 more classrooms into Berlin? Just through enhancing the design?
Oh, how did,
Versus kind of
yes.
like Hyatt and Liberty that are 44
Yes,
and all,
yeah.
or is 42.
Oops, sorry, I went back too
How
far.
were we able to squeeze in a couple extra classrooms?
We were able to squeeze in extra classrooms. How did we do that? Jeff, do you remember? We stretched it out a little bit.
It's like a slightly bigger footprint.
In Berkshire, we had the connector classrooms, 6 of them. After meeting with the principals, we established that they needed 2 more science rooms. So when we brought instead of a connector, we brought the classrooms into the building. So we added 30-foot in each wing, so it was 2 classrooms on each level of each wing, which made 8. So that gave us the 2 extra science rooms, plus the 6 connectors brought into the building.
Good, thank you.
Then high school, as you can guess, is also growing. And we look at this in just number of students. We don't look at it in classroom because the classroom schedule is so varied amongst the students, so just number of students. We know that the design capacity for the high schools is 1,800. The stretch is what we feel that's very comfortable in a high school is about 2,000 students per high school. We know that we can do 2,155 because we had that at Liberty a couple years ago, so we know we can do that. So you can see the different blue across the bottom. We get into that area where we're above the 2,000 students per high school. Again, that's evenly distributed across the district. Year 11, we're looking at being in that 2,155 range. So the capacity is going to be an issue moving forward in the high school also, but not necessarily within the 10-year forecast.
Because unbelievably, I still get asked, when are you going to open your next high school? And I said, not in the foreseeable future. Right, at least to your point, not in the next 10 years. We don't believe we need one. Is that fair?
Not in the next 10 years. It being open.
I don't mean to try to put you on the spot. But yeah,
No,
for the
you're not putting me on the spot. I just
Yeah.
don't want to have you think that because it's not on the 10-year forecast, it does not mean that we don't need to be thinking about it and talking about it.
So we have 10 years to monitor and adjust and take action.
We have about 5 years to do that. Just because of the construction time period, the design time period, the ballot time period. It's not something that we can put off for 10 years and then decide. We'll be hurting at that point. Maybe not us, because we might not be here, but our students, the future.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, as we look at this, we've got 3, 4 elementary schools, another middle school, you know, they're all coming, and they don't just pop up. It's just like we talked about it, you know, the transportation. You don't take a bus driver, you know, they hire and then they're driving a bus the next day.
Right.
You don't start with a school the next day. It takes a lot of lead time. It takes, you know, there's financial, there's site plans, there's all sorts of this. So it's certainly sobering to see the way that these numbers are going. And I want to echo what we said in the facilities committee, just all the incredible work that goes into doing this. And it serves our district so well to have such thoughtful and accurate, you know, forecasts that are coming out. But, you know, this isn't a surprise to anyone, but it's sobering, right? And we've got to think about how we're going to be doing this, what education is going to look like in 10 years, because it may not look like what it's looking like now and how needs are going to change and how that's going to impact exactly how we go about doing all of this.
I can pull out my Project 2020 report that in 2008 and 9, when we talked about what education would look like in 2020, and it looks exactly like it looks like in 2010. We were predicting it would be vastly different. So my prediction would be is it's going to be vastly similar to what we have. I use the phrase often for myself, having the blessing of standing on the shoulders of giants that planned this district out, starting in 1990 when we built Olentangy High School, and in 1998 or 9 when they had the foresight to buy 90 acres for Berlin High School that was supposed to open in 2010. We hit a recession and it didn't open to 2018, but the land was bought 20 years prior.
They say, when's the last time we bought land?
We bought land for Berlin Middle School.
That's right.
Because we accelerated, we just didn't like the sites we already owned. We do own sites, we don't own a site big enough for a high school. So I do think that's something facilities should, would be prudent to put on the table, because it's one of the, we're not allowed to land speculate, it's against the law, but it's certainly better to have it, not need it, and need it, and not have it. We got in that situation when I worked in Westerville. We built a high school on, geez, Todd left, he was 50-acre site. It's terrible. And the facilities committee does a great job of modeling all these capacities, but when we say 650 is ideal, is a nice capacity for an elementary school, but it can go to 750. And short-term, redistricting is, anybody who sits at this table should say the word redistricting as often as they can, because the community needs to know redistricting is always on the table. We can't have a building. We're overflowing out of 2 elementary schools right now, Heritage and Liberty Tree. We're sending students who move into the district to other buildings, not in their attendance area, because we just don't have any room at those schools. I like 2,200 is the round number for the high schools, because Orange was over 2,200. Again, it's not ideal. The community decided, when we decided to build Liberty, 1,600 was the ideal, and we blew past that. So, again, it's what the community wants and is willing to pay for. When I got here in '03, I was told 27 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, and 5 high schools. And that was a long time ago, somebody made that prediction. And obviously, with the waves of recessions and those kind of things, it changes. So, I promise, you may still be up here giving enrollment reports, but I won't be here when that comes around.
My only daughter graduated, so
There you go.
I'll be moving on at
Well,
some
but
point.
that makes it all the more valuable how much you care about the district, Sharon, so.
Yeah.
And we don't have the presentation determined yet, but at some point in the future, in collaboration with other experts, we do want to start looking at when that peak is and how high that is and how many schools that represents, and then also where we are at maturity, which is what they call when we kind of taper off and the population has evened out, and how many schools we are at that point, and what do we do with that difference between our maximum and our maturity. We don't want to be like some districts who built like crazy and then they end up with schools that are empty. So what is that sweet spot of building versus not building, and do we come up with things that are alternative education type scenarios where we don't need, some of those peak buildings because we just need to fill a gap for a few years or something. So that's something beyond what the facilities committee covers. That's more on the academic side, but we are starting to look at what that looks like and when that's coming, so we can give you guys a heads up.
Do we still do the maximum build-out scenario? or
Yeah, that's a student potential
Look
analysis.
at available land and assume
Mhm.
it converts, and then
Right.
what does it convert to? Okay.
It's been a couple, I think last one was 18-ish. It's been a couple years since we've, maybe
We
19.
At some
officially
point,
did
we get fully
one.
built out,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's
Well, it takes into account as neighborhoods mature, the yields on price points, certain,
turnover,
and,
yeah.
and if they're turning over. We've got more data on that, because when we've done 2 of those student potential analyses, and we use 500 new home starts, 750 new home start, and even 1,000 new home
Yeah.
start. average.
Even like High Meadow, Green Meadow, they were the first one to go through
Right.
that full cycle of build out, everybody graduates, and then new people come.
Well, and that's where now I think we actually, when we do the student potential analysis, we were making a lot of assumptions about the turnover. And because for years, the growth was just new people moving into new
Correct.
homes. All the building was brand new. Now we've got people moving into existing homes, or people in the district moving into a new home. They're already here, and then they sell to somebody with 3, 4 kids. That creates our growth. So I think we'll have a lot better data on that to run a different student potential analysis, which should be done.
Do we know the drivers of the difference? I mean, the difference is so small. It's unbelievable that you get so close with these projections. But do we know the drivers, like 12th grade, 43? It would seem like 12th grade would be a year we're not that far off. So do we know, is that a question of entrance and exit interviews with students? Or do we know the drivers, or is it so small it doesn't matter?
I mean, we try to look at the growth ratios every single year, and you can see 11th grade to 12th grade, that last column on the right has always been right around 100%. You look at the 2-year average, 101.23, 5-year average, 100.26. I can't see that far. But this year it's higher, I don't know.
I think that would, I
Our
would.
schools are awesome.
I would
That's my
think-
answer to all anomalies in this, I have no idea.
I think if it's a difference from last year to this year, it's kids who went full online last year and got out of our count as juniors and then came back to us as seniors.
Because the years you see jumps are first grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, when
Right.
they're either coming from parochial education back to public education or whatever, so.
But I would say that most of those people, the reason we're 250 off, because that's, again, great job at 2.3%, but we've been inside that
We have,
in the past.
right.
So, and I think that's the COVID factor, that we lost kids who just, disenrolled and then came back.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
anything else? Excellent job, Sharon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now go into the action items, so I'll entertain a motion to move forward board action item A, which is to approve the enrollment projections we just discussed.
So
Can I have
moved.
a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, any additional discussion on the enrollment projections? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Dr. Wallach,
Yes.
Dr. Wise,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrico,
Yes.
Mr. Lester.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Rafe,
Yes, sir.
please present the superintendent action. items.
Present superintendent action items A through J for approval.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Could
Second.
I have a second? Yes.
Yes,
I
second.
wasn't seconding. Any discussion on the superintendent action items? All right, seeing none, please call the roll, Mr. Jenkins.
Dr. Wise,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrico,
Yes.
Mr. Lester,
Yes.
Dr. Wallach.
Yes.
All right, I'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 121-22. The purpose is to conference with attorneys concerning pending legal action and matters required to be kept confidential pursuant to state and federal law. So, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
And a second, Ms. Wallach. In terms of discussion, we will return only to adjourn. We will not be taking any action when we come back. So with that, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Dr. Dabrico,
Yes.
Mr. Lester,
Yes.
Dr. Wallach,
Yes.
Dr. Wise.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Where are we going to? Back to order at 9:12 PM. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Jenkins, please call the roll.
Can't see. Dr. Dabercow. Dabercow, beg your
It's
pardon.
okay, it's okay. Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Lester.
Yes.
Dr. Wallach.
Yes.
Dr. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All righty.